A new ticker popped up on the TV program we were watching. The disaster report told how municipalities all over were continually sending out rain, flood and wave warnings. Of course, the raindrops beating harshly on the window were even more convincing.
すっげえ不利だな。でもこれだけ盛大だとすぐにやみそうな気もするけどな。
そりゃ雨ぜ。台風の速度が遅いそうだから下手すりゃ明日も丸一日こんな調子らしいぜ。ちょっとの天気でも船は欠航するもんだしよ。
やっぱり日曜日のうちには引き上げられないか。念のため月曜日に外部とのスケジュールを入れなくて正解だったよ。
ってことは月曜の学校はサボれそうだな。島生活ってのも悪くないもんだぜ。そういやジェシカは登校って毎日船で通ってるわけだろ。船が欠航したら学校はどうなるんだ。カメハメハ大王並みに雨が降ったらお休みで風が吹いたら遅刻してか。
船が出なきゃ休みになるぜ。もっともそう甘くはねえけどな。大抵その代わりに自習が指示されて後でかっちりと見られるからそうそう気楽でもねえさ。
例えば梅雨なんかの長く天気が崩れる時期だと数日間くらい登校できないこともあるんじゃねえのか。
そういうこともあるぜ。でも毎日きっちり担任から電話がかかってきてどう自習しろ何を提出しろと酸っぱく指導されるけどな。
バトラ君が考えてるほど簡単にはサボれないよ。船で通う人たちのルールに従ってしっかり勉強をしているよ。
むしろ登校できた方が気楽だぜ。自分の部屋じゃ気が散るし集中もできねえしな。それでいて問題集ばっかり数日もやらされてるとかなり精神的に応えるもんがあるぜ。大学の時にはよ寮のあるところに入ってさっさとこんな不便な島はおさらばしたいもんだぜ。
へえ。じゃあよ、ちなみに行きは天気が良くても帰りは悪くて欠航ってなったらどうすんだ。学校に泊まるのか。
そういうのはよくあることだぜ。だから帰島できない人用の宿泊所があってよ、そこに寝泊まりするんだよ。下手すりゃ数日間家に帰れないこともあったりするぜ。
乗車率が 200% を超えるような満員電車で毎日通勤通学しなければならない人から見てみると船の通学なんて趣があって良さそうだななんて無責任に思っちゃうけど、やっぱりいろいろと苦労があるんだね。
よく無神経な観光客がそういうこと言ってるぜ。私は島の生活なんてもうお腹いっぱいだね。早く高校出てこんな島とはおさらばしたいぜ。
高校にだって全寮制のところとかあったろうよ。なんでわざわざ新島の学校を選んだんだよ。
私は最初からそれを希望してたぜ。でもおふくろがよ当主跡継ぎとしての修行やらマナーやらがうんぬんってうるさくてよ、結局高校も地元になっちまったのさ。こんな島はごめんだぜ。早く都会で生活したいよ。雨が降ろうが槍が降ろうがラフな格好でサンダルを履けば5分足らずでコンビニに行けるような都会に引っ越したいぜ。
もう少しの辛抱だよ。高校卒業まであとちょっとでしょ。
そのちょっとも我慢できねえぜ。
Jessica stretched out and reclined on the sofa. Maybe it was a bad time because there weren't any interesting programs on, and we had nothing to do but loungely kill time while we were called for dinner. After that episode, Maria never returned to the cousin's room after all. Aunt Rosa probably took her back to the mansion. It had probably been... It had to be pretty boring for Maria all by herself while the adults had a confusing conversation. We thought we might as well head over to the mansion to see her, but the weather was really awful. and since there wasn't much time until dinner, we stayed where we were. At that time, we heard the sound of a humble knock. Jessica answered.
お食事の準備が整いました。お屋敷へお越しください。
It was Canon's voice. Did he go through a way of trouble of coming from a mansion in this rain just to get us? Couldn't he have just called us on the telephone? Well, I guess servants at work don't always get to take the most efficient route.
なんとなくお腹が空いてきた頃だったしね。行こうか。
George turned off the television and stood up.
俺はとっくにペコペコ。本家の晩餐は毎回凝ってるしな。それに郷田さん、子牛のステーキとか言ってなかったっけ？たまらねえぜ。
親族会議の日は特に豪華になるしな。私だって楽しみだぜ。行こう行こ
After we left the room, Canon bowed silently and respectfully.
う。じゃあ行こうぜ。外の振りはだいぶひどいだろう。
はい。お召し物を濡らさぬよう十分ご注意ください。
After seeing the three of us out, Canon peered into the empty room.
マリア様はいらっしゃいませんか？
一緒じゃないぜ。ローザおばさんと一緒じゃないのかよ。
Rosa was lying on the sofa in the empty parlour, having fallen asleep before she knew it. She was bearing a burden that children couldn't even imagine. That's why she only needed to let her guard down for a little before the wariness immediately dragged her into the world of sleep. Realizing this, Genji brought a blanket over to her. When he tried to spread it over her, her eyes snapped open as though she'd been shocked with electricity.
ありがとう。源氏さんなのね。
When she realized that the thing that had touched her was just a blanket and that Genji had been considerately giving it to her, she let out a sigh of relief.
起こしてしまいましたか。失礼いたしました。
いえ、いいの。寝るつもりじゃなかったから。今は何時なの？
When he was asked for a time, Genji checked her pocket watch that he took out of his chest pocket.
6時を少し過ぎたところです。
Rosa gave her head a little shake when she realized that not much time had actually passed, even though it felt like she'd slept for ages. Even though she didn't feel rested at all, the drowsiness that had enveloped her must have been pretty deep.
ありがとう。毛布は結構よ。変な時間に眠っちゃダメね。すっかり時間の感覚が狂っちゃったわ。雨、とうとう降り出したのね。
Rosa finally realized that the peaceful sound that had put her to sleep was actually the rain.
風もだいぶ出てるよね。いよいよ台風なのかしら。
そのようにテレビでは申しております。遅い台風だそうで、明日いっぱいはこんな調子だそうです。
そう。この素敵なバラ庭園も日中のあれが見納めだったのね。
From the window, she could see of the rose garden was completely blurred by the wind and the rain.
そうだ。マリアは？
私はお見かけしておりませんが、ゲストハウスにお戻りではないでしょうか。
Rosa knew her daughter's nature well, though a chill ran down her spine. Mia was stubbornly honest, and if she was ordered to find something that didn't exist, she would look forever and ever, even in the pouring rain.
違う。いとこの子たちは先に行ってしまったから、あそこにはマリア一人。あの子は誰かにもうやめろと言われない限り、たとえ槍が降ってこようとあそこに居続けるわ。傘もささずに。私は感情に任せてなんてことを。
Even though she knew about Mia's simple honesty better than anyone, once she lost control of her emotions and did something she'd once again lost control of her emotions and done something terrible. Rosa pushed Genji away and ran down the hall. The outside really looked like a typhoon, the rain was pouring down spectacularly. Maybe because of some aspect of terrain, the winds weren't typhoon glass, so an umbrella wouldn't be torn out of one's hand. Even so, it certainly was a windy rain. There was no time to admire the roses being drenched.
とりあえず今はマリアが気になるぜ。まさかあの後もずっと一人でへそ曲げてあそこでバラ探しをしてるなんてことはないよな。
そうだね。さすがにこの雨じゃと思いたいところだけど、マリアちゃんはたまにすごく頑固でものすごく愚直な時がある。
We hadn't worried much, thinking that Aunt Rosa had taken her back to the mansion. However, when Canon had come from the mansion to call us and thought Mario was here, we were a little worried.
お屋敷ではお見かけしませんでしたので、てっきりこちらにおられるとばかり。ローザ様は仮眠を取られておいででしたので。
ここに来る途中に見かけなかったのかよ。
申し訳ございません。傘を差し急ぎ駆け抜けたもので、そこまでの注意を払いませんでした。
If he had cut through the rose garden, taking the shortest line between the mansion and the guest house, then he would have just barely missed the place where Maria had been looking for the rose. And it was raining this hard too. It certainly would have been possible for Canon to fail to notice her.
ここで議論するより直接確かめる方が早いさ。兄貴、ちょいとかけっこと行こうじゃねえかよ。
6年成長したから僕に勝てるつもりかい？よし、決着をつけようじゃないか。行こう。
George and I flew out into the rain. Jessica and Canon followed us.
いるなら返事をしなさい。マリア
ローザおばさんだ。おばさん。
When George called back, Aunt Rosa jumped at him and grabbed onto him.
マリアはどこ？ジョージ君たちと一緒じゃないの？
いえ、僕たちはあの後マリアちゃんには出会ってません。
6 years ago, Mario was 3 years old. He was a cute and pure kid who'd just accept whatever anyone said. But 6 years have passed since then. She's 9 now, and experiencing the ups and downs of life should have taught her something. But Maria, are you telling me that you're still as innocent and pure as you used to be?
マリア
As they circled the rose bed, something white unexpectedly turned to face me. It was a white umbrella. Maria was crouching down, holding a white umbrella and still searching for that rose. Her face had turned bright red from crying her eyes out, and was dirtied with water and mud. It was a truly pitiful sight.
お前まだ探してたのか。
見つからない。マリアのバラ見つからない。
Maria had probably been here since the rain started pouring down. Her shoulders were freezing. She looked tired to the bone, but fortunately she was still holding an umbrella so she wasn't completely soaked. The umbrella probably came from the handbag Maria was carrying around. Thank goodness. Seriously, thank goodness.
バトラ君。
Wait, didn't we earlier say that Maria wouldn't take out an umbrella?
よかった。見つけたんだね。
ごめんなさい。本当にごめんなさい。
Aunt Rosa threw her umbrella aside and hugged Maria.
ない。マ マリアのバラがない。後でママも一緒に探してあげるからね。だから今日はお預けにしなさいね。今日はお預け。
It looked like wasn't able to accept it, but she no longer had enough energy left to resist. Jessica and Canon caught up with us.
すぐにお屋敷でタオルの用意をさせましょう。
マリア、ずっとここにいたのか。ごめんね、本当に悪いママでごめんね。
ローザおばさん、とりあえずお屋敷に行きましょう。このままじゃマリアちゃん風邪をひいちゃう。
そうね。マリア、行きましょう。ちゃんときれいにしないとおじい様に怒られちゃうわよ。お腹すいた。もう食事の時間だぜ。マリアはよく頑張ったよ。天気が良くなったら私たちも一緒に探してやるから。
We couldn't stay in the rain forever. We took Mario with us as we headed back to the mansion. Mario apparently wasn't as worn out as I'd thought. When she remembered we were having calf steak for dinner, she started chanting, I'm hungry, ooh, and returned to her usual spirited self. Aunt Rose didn't chide Mario for saying ooh.
そっか、傘を持っていたのか。さすがマリアは物持ちがいいぜ。マリア、傘なんか持ってない。
I knew it.
なんだよ。じゃあその手に持ってる白い傘はどうしたんだよ。
貸してもらった。
Some caring person must have brought her an umbrella. A normal kid would look for shelter once it started raining, but Mario was stubborn to give up so easily. So maybe that caring person gave up on telling Mario to find shelter and then decided to at least to give her an umbrella.
そう、その人にお礼を言わないとね。誰？ベアトリーチェ。
Thank you, sound effect guy. The name Mario cheerfully mentioned was that of the island's witch. Rosa took a deep breath again, trying to do so in a way that wouldn't damage Mario's good mood.
そう、よかったわね。それで誰なの？傘を持ってきてくれた人は。おお、ベアトリーチェ。おお。
Maria immediately realized that her mother didn't believe her and started crying out unhappily again. So Rosa stopped pursuing the subject. It probably faster to ask whoever lent Maria the umbrella during dinner rather than ask Maria herself.
お父さん、せめて晩餐にだけは出席してください。これでは親族会議になりません。
Along with the dull pounding on the door, the sound of Krauss's entry could be heard. However, that voice seemed to be resigned to the fact that nothing it said would be heard.
金蔵さん、せめて夕食くらいは出んかね。あんたの顔を見ようと息子さんたちが集まってきてるんじゃないか。
黙れ南條。ビショップが聞かぬか。言って足りぬ。
Apparently, Kinzo was completely focused on the final battle of his long-lasting chess match with Nanjo. Kinzo's brow was wrinkled as he continued to glare at the game board through his spectacles. Krauss's voice didn't reach his ears.
金蔵さん、私も腹が減った。下に降りて食事をせんか。
ならばお前だけで行くといい。私はもうしばらくこの一手を吟味させてもらうぞ。今夜で決着をつけてやる。さもなくばお前との決着は金輪際つけられそうにないからな。
Nanjo rose from his seat, hoping that this would prompt Kinzo to do the same, but Kinzo's eyes never left the chessboard. He knew well that Kinzo always displays a blind concentration when it came to chess, but he'd never seen Kinzo concentrate as hard as this. It was almost though Kinzo was telling the truth, and there would never be a chance for them to continue their contest if they didn't finish tonight. It seemed that no matter how obstinately, I don't know that word, he called out to Kinzo, it wouldn't reach the latter's heart. Nanjo gave up and headed to the door that Kraus was banging on. The door to the study opened. Kraus was taken aback, thinking that maybe Kinzo was actually coming out. However, Nanjo was the one who appeared, and Kraus let out a sigh of relief.
南條先生、親父殿は。
お役に立てなくて申し訳ございませんな。今や金蔵さんの世界はこの部屋だけです。
Nanjo shook his head with a completely defeated expression. Kraus raised his fist once more and banged on the door, shouting,
お父さん、聞こえますか？私たちは下へおりますが、気が向かれたらいつでもおいでください。息子兄弟一同、ずっとお待ちしておりますよ。
His voice was very loud, and he was making a racket pounding on the door. There was no way it wouldn't reach Kinzo's ears. Well, it certainly was reaching him, but he ignored it anyway. However, unlike the time he'd been called down for lunch, he didn't fly into a rage. By now, Kinzo was calm at heart, almost though he'd taken a philosophical view and turned himself over to fate.
晩餐にも息子たちの顔にも興味はない。私がここを出るのはベアトリーチがよみがえる時か、私が鍵の生贄に選ばれた時だけだ。もう悪魔のルーレットは回っている。今さら晩餐に何の意味があろう。
As though the painfully loud banging of the door completely failed to enter his hearing, Kinzo silently thought about his next chess move, still in his philosophical state. Just as always, Kinzo's figure couldn't be seen anywhere in the dining hall. Kraus, wearing a bitter smile, returned with Nanjo.
親父殿は相変わらずご気分が優れられないそうだ。年に一度の親族が集まるこの機会に同席できないことを非常に残念がられておられた。
Eva and Rudolph sniggered. Given Kinzo's personality, there was no way he showed signs of regret. And none of his relatives showed any regret at his absence.
ではディナーを始めようじゃないか。ゴーダ、始めたまえ。
かしこまりました。それでは始めさせていただきます。
When Godo was told to start the family conference dinner, his biggest time to shine of the whole year, he nodded with a broad grin.
マリアに傘を貸してくれた人は誰かしら？
When Rosa timidly cut through the silence of the dining hall, everyone noticed.
傘？何の話？その
A short while back, Maria was in the rose garden when it started
誰
raining.
かに白い傘を借りたみたいなんだけど、お礼が言いたくて。
俺たちじゃねえぜ。ローザが出てった後は部屋を移してずっと仲良くおしゃべりをしてたからな。
はは、そうやで。あの後も兄弟で仲良くおしゃべりをしとったのや。
The word friendly fell awkwardly from Hideyoshi's lips, though even those who hadn't been present could tell the conversation hadn't been a pleasant one.
少なくとも私とエヴァとルドルフと、あと秀吉さんとキリエさんではないことも確かだがね。
私たちは夏日姉さんとローザさんが出て行った後もずっと一緒だったわ。食事の時間までずっとね。
兄さんは源氏さんと一緒にお父様を呼びに上の書斎へ。私たちはそのまま食堂へ直行したもの。だから私たちではないわね。
Why does it feel like they're giving alibis for why they didn't do it?
傘を貸すなんて親切。使用人の誰かじゃないの？
じゃあ、合田さん？
私はずっと厨房で準備をしておりましたもので、申し訳ございません。
Yoda looks like disappointed about missing his chance to show off. At that time, Shannon and Kumasawa appeared, pushing a serving cart loaded with hors d'oeuvres.
じゃあ、熊沢さんかシャノンちゃんかしら。何か粗相がございましたでしょうか。
Because Shannon had come in part way, she shrank back, mistakenly thinking that the others were searching for one responsible for some error.
違うよ。マリアちゃんがバラ庭園に一人でいた時に雨が降ってきてね。誰かが傘を貸してくれたんだよ。ローザおばさんがその人にお礼を言いたいって言うのさ。
ああ、ベアトリーチェ。
Maria, her mouth in a thin line, said the witch's name in a small voice. Aunt Rosa explained the situation one more time. As she did, Kumasawa cackled.
私たちでもございませんよ。私もシャノンさんも一緒にお部屋の準備をしておりましたから、お外には出ておりません。
はい。気が利かなくてすみません。
部屋の準備とは何のことかね。
この雨ですから、客人の皆さんがゲストハウスにお帰りになられるのも大変かと思って、使用人たちに屋敷内の客室の準備をするように命じたのです。あら、気が利くじゃない。そうね、この雨の中表に追い出すのは失礼だものね。
もう予算か。
はい。奥様からそのようにご指示を受けまして、私と熊沢さんとカノン君の3人で準備をしておりました。そしてご夕食の時間になり、源氏様からゲストハウスのお子様方をお呼びするようご指示をいただいたため。
ええ。ですから、カノンさんがゲストハウスに行かれるときに、マリアさんを見つけて、傘をお渡ししたのではありませんか？
ほー。違う。
The person who had actually received the umbrella denied it. Bertha was troubled. All she wanted to do was give a word of thanks to the person who had lent the umbrella, but she couldn't find them. And she thought asking like this of everyone gathered for dinner would work immediately.
じゃあ、夏日姉さん？
ごめんなさい。私は皆さんとの仲良くの語らいの後、頭痛がひどかったので自分の部屋で休んでいました。ですから表へは出ていません。
なら誰なの？ジョージ君たち？なわけないわよね。
いえ、僕たちじゃありません。僕たちはずっとゲストハウスでテレビを見てました。
むしろ私たちは、マリアはおばさんと一緒に屋敷に行ったとばかり。
So, Nanjo and technically Kinzo are the only two people who are missing. We don't
そ
know
こへ
when...
カノン君が来て、マリアは一緒じゃないのかと聞いたんで、初めて屋敷にはいないのかって分かったんだよ。
We don't know when they started playing chess, so...
第一俺だったら、傘を貸すより先に、手引っ張って屋根の下に連れて行くぜ。
Bertha was completely baffled. One by one, relatives and servants denied they had done it, even though it really wasn't something anyone would need to hide. So, by process of elimination, the remaining candidates weren't large.
もちろん私でもありませんが、雨が降り始めてすぐの頃、金蔵さんの部屋を訪ねて、ついさっきまで一緒にチェスをしておりました。
ということは、おじい様でもないよね。
なんだなんだ、妙な話になってきたぜ。あと残るのは誰だ？
じゃあ誰？源氏さん？ちょっと待って。別に私は何かの犯人探しをしてるんじゃないのよ。雨の中のマリアに傘を差し伸べてくれた人に母としてお礼が言いたいだけなの。
Giving an umbrella to a girl loitering in the rain was something to be praised, not hidden. Despite that, no one raised their hand. Why not? Everyone started whispering about how strange this was getting.
落ち着けよローザ。傘を借りた本人に聞けばいいじゃねえか。
That's what everyone had been thinking since the beginning. They were all scratching their heads at why they didn't just ask Maria, who'd been given the umbrella. However, Rosa bit her lower lip. After all, she already knew how Maria would answer if asked.
どうりや。ルドルフ君の言う通りやないか。マリアちゃん、おじさんに教えてえな。マリアちゃんに傘を貸してくれたのは誰や？
ベアトリーチェ。
What's that boing sound effect? The dining hall was wrapped in silence for an instant, but it was soon interrupted by a burst of laughter.
なるほど。森の魔女ベアトリーチェが不憫に思って傘を貸してくれたか。いい話じゃないかね。ローザ、そういうことだ。
Rosa couldn't believe it. Even though she just wanted to say thanks for the umbrella, why did everything have to be clouded in smoke?
クラースおじさんの言う通り、ベアトリーチェが貸してくれたの。
Ah, borrow.
Hmm. それはよかった。無垢だというのは実に羨ましいことではないか。なあ、諸君。
Kraus was laughing, though face that was clearly mocking. But Maria was overjoyed, apparently convinced that her claim was being relieved.
一体どうなってんの？まさか本当に魔女が現れて傘を貸したってのかよ。
Jessica asked me in a small voice that wouldn't carry over to Maria, who was sitting across from me.
マリアって冗談が言えるタイプだっけ？
If we'd heard that story, that kind of story pop from my old bastard's mouth, he would have just taken it as a joke. However, it was hard to explain it away like that when Maria said it. It was getting pretty unnerving.
いや、昔から愚直なぐらい正直で真面目だよ。
Wait, so either everyone's telling the truth and it actually is the witch, or Mario is lying, it's not the witch. And if we say that she's lying, she could have had the umbrella in her bag the entire time.
普通なら聞いただけで嘘とわかるような冗談すら鵜呑みにするタイプだぜ。マリアから冗談を言い出すなんて聞いたこともない。
We never got Rosa. Never had Rosa say that she didn't give her an umbrella like that. Aunt Rosa probably knew it better than anyone. It appeared that because of this weird situation, she had no idea what was going on anymore.
じゃあマリアがベアトリーチェに傘を借りたと言ったなら、それは間違いなくベアトリーチェなのか？
マリアに関してだけは何かの比喩とか冗談とかそういうことは考えられねえぜ。額面通りの意味だと思うべきだろうよ。
じゃあなんだよ。源氏さんあたりがあの肖像画のごついドレスを着てマリアに傘を持って行ってやったっていうのか？
そんなことは知らねえぜ。私が聞きたいくらいさ。
We do have a couple of people who would be given, who don't have a proper alibi. So, yeah. Once the Ors were set out and Goda showed off his vast store of knowledge, the meal began. A couple of casual shouts broke out here and there, but they seemed somehow distant. And the meal ended up being so quiet that you couldn't ignore the sound of rain sneaking into the dining hall. Kumasawa and Shannon pushing the service cart ran into Genji and Kanon on the way to the kitchen.
源氏さんですか？マリア様に傘を貸されたのは。
傘？何のことだ？
はい。雨が降り出した時に、マリア様は一人でバラ庭園におられたそうで、そこでどなたかに傘をお借りになったそうなのですが、それがどなたかわからないのです。
僕じゃないよ。マリア様はゲストハウスにいると思ってたくらいだからね。バトラ様が最初に見つけられた時にはもう白い傘をお持ちだった。
申し訳ないが、それは私でもない。
じゃあまさか親方様。
Both from the dining hall and right here, everyone had stated that they hadn't done it. That left only Kinzo, but...
何かのご用で廊下を歩かれているとき、偶然バラ庭園に傘もささないマリア様が見えたとか。
親方様はマリア様のことをあまりお好きではない。
同感だね。親方様がマリア様のために直々に開花までお越しになって傘をお持ちくださるとは考えられないよ。
あら、困りましたわね。ではマリア様に傘をお貸しになられたのは本当にベアトリーチェ様ってことに。
Kumasawa laughed, just like the relatives in the dining hall who had laughed it off. She couldn't think of any other way to break through the smoke veiling the current situation. Just then, the crisp sound of hands clapping twice rang through the hallway. They all turned round at once, see Goda coming out from the dining hall.
さあさあ皆さん、ディナーは配膳のタイミングも大事です。すぐにスープの配膳に取り掛かってください。源氏さん、彼女らは大切なお仕事中ですので、お引き止めになられないでください。
Oof. Kanon glared at Goda for being rude to Genji, a person Kanon respected. Genji, realizing this, patted Kanon on the shoulder as a warning. Kanon reluctantly turned away and returned his expression to normal.
ゴーダの指示に従いなさい。今は晩餐の配膳を急ぐように。
ほらほら、時間がありません。タラタラしない。急ぎますよ。
Goda grabbed the serving cart from Shannon and steadily pushed it towards the kitchen.
では私どもも厨房に戻らせていただきます。ゴーダさんも気の短い方ですからね。
私もこれで失礼いたします。
Kumasawa and Shannon left. Only Genji and Kanon remained. Through the window, the darkness of a rainy night could be seen along the occasional thunderbolt.
源氏様、ベアトリーチェ様が本当にお戻りになられたのでしょうか。
わからん。
親方様にお知らせしますか。
せずともよい。本当にお戻りになられたなら、やがておのずと親方様の前へ現れよう。それにあれは気まぐれなお方。親方様にご報告申し上げたところで、 お姿を現されないことには何の意味もない。
親方様の儀式はすでに始まっているということでしょうか。
おそらく。だがそれは我ら家具には何の関わりもないこと。親方様に受けたご恩を最後の瞬間までお返しするのみ。
はい、それが僕たち家具の務めです。
The thunder crashed once more, except for those instants where lightning lit up the sky, nothing could be seen out of the window but the darkness of night. Just as humans rule when the sun is up, those that are not human rule when the sun is down. The darkness of night that now surrounded Rokkenjima was ruled by another master, not the Ushiromaya family. Did this master take a pity on Maria when she was alone and being pummeled by the rain in the rose garden, lending her an umbrella? Cannon looked at the rose garden's lights, dimly visible beyond the window. The dim lights weren't enough to illuminate the surrounding area. Looking at those lights felt like making eye contact with a witch, and Cannon forced himself to avert his gaze. If he didn't, it felt like his eyes would be absorbed by that light. Can the weather change how people act? You often hear stories of how things like atmospheric pressure can influence people's moods and physical health. For some time now, everyone has been struggling to clear the gloomy atmosphere, but any conversation was quickly cut off, and in the end the dining hall was simply filled by the sound of the rain. Dessert was some kind of chocolate cake accompanied by pear sherbet. Goda was enthusiastically explained the recipe as soon as this final dish was presented, but I quickly forgot the details. The guest of honor grandfather was absent, and the weather was horrible, and the identity of the one who left Maria the umbrella remained a mystery. When dinner ended, no one felt even one bit refreshed. It was too late now, but I realized painfully that taste wasn't the only important part of the meal. The whole atmosphere was also critical. Goda, the supposed conductor of this musical piece called Dinner, did his best to enliven the place, dropping little jokes left and right, but apparently not one of them succeeded. After taking orders for after-dinner coffee, tea, and orange juice, he left for the kitchen. As soon as he disappeared, Uncle Kraus spoke.
やれやれ。せっかくゴーダが腕を振るってくれた晩餐も、こうも沈み込んでしまっては実に味気ないというものだ。
まったくね。今日は何を食べても美味しく感じられない、そういう気分よ。
ほう。どうしてそういう気分なのか聞きたいね。心が晴れ晴れできるよう、兄として後で協力させてもらうよ。
Aunt Eva grimaced slightly. I'd already heard she wasn't on good terms with Uncle Kraus, but it was pretty clear now. When I looked around, I noticed that my father and Aunt Rosa were also grimacing. Apparently there's something besides the weather troubling all of them.
エヴァおばさんもうちの親父もずいぶん機嫌が悪そうっすね。
そう？私はそうは思いませんよ。
When I asked Aunt Natsui, who was sitting on my right, she seemed to be in a bad mood as well. She snapped back as if to say she was absolutely not interested.
まあちょいと大人な話で込み入ってな。バトラ君たち子供は気にせんでええ話や。なあ夏井さん、キリエさん。
Uncle Hideyoshi laughed as he spoke, but not without his usual brightness. So I could vaguely imagine just how complicated their adult discussion had become. On top of that, even Natsuri and Kiri, the people he had directed the comment to, ignored him, though they hadn't heard anything. I didn't know what kind of conversation they'd be having while us kids were away, but it reminded me of how Dad said he had stomach cramps when he arrived at the mansion. The family conference might have been a playful reunion to us kids, but it was definitely different to the adults. After Uncle Hideyoshi's comment was ignored by the other adults, and an awkward silence fell over the room, Kiryu spoke up.
子供たちの進路はどうなるのかしらとか、そういう話よ。バトラ君は将来はどうするの？ぼんやりと大学進学？そんなのじゃ長い人生レースのスタートラインとしては心細いわよ。
あいたたたたたた。キリエさん、飯の最中にそんな話されちまったら、消化不良で便秘になっちまうぜ。
そうやそうや。バトラ君やジェシカちゃんの進路の話をしとったんや。将来のことは真剣に考えんとあかんで。
Hideyoshi heartily agreed, as if they really had been talking about that, but that was probably wrong. Kiryu had been obviously trying to change the subject. However, if Kiryu had determined that this was the best course of action for now, then she was probably right. Taking this into account, I cast aside my suspicions as to the cause behind Aunt Eva and Dad's bad moods. At long last, the serving cart returned filled with coffee and tea. Kurosawa and Shannon served tea to everyone. Goda then tried to explain that this concluded tonight's meal. If only the mood had been a little more cheery, it might have been the best dinner of my life. It was a shame that the best dinners couldn't be had under the best conditions.
ジョージお兄ちゃん、これでご飯は終わり？
うん。これでおしまいだよ。
はしてないわよ。お席について、落ち着いてジュースを飲みなさい。
Rio looked like she was really excited by the occasionally crashing thunder. Maybe she wanted to quickly finish eating and run over to the window. She had been fidgeting for a while, waiting for the meal to end. Some people are afraid of thunder, while others find it interesting. Rio is apparently one of the latter sorts. Therefore, when she heard from George that dinner was over, a huge smile broke across her face. She then rose from her seat, took out her handbag, which she set under the seat, never having left it while she was eating, and began fishing around inside of it. No one seemed particularly concerned by this behavior.
なんだい？それはどこから持ってきたの？
Where did you get that? George was the first one to notice it. As he spoke, Battler noticed it too. They saw Mario was holding a beautiful Western-style envelope. On the front of the envelope was the Ushiromaya family crest, the one-winged eagle, was done in gold leaf. Furthermore, the fact it was sealed by a dark red wax made it clear that it wasn't something Maria could have brought as a prank.
マリアちゃん、それは何？
It seemed that Natsuya had also noticed the strangeness of the envelope Maria was holding. Her voice sounded too serious for someone admonishing a small child, so relatives around us finally noticed too.
どうしたよ、夏日姉さん。
それ、何？
マリア、あなた、それをどこで拾ったの？
その封筒は金蔵さんの。
When Nanjo muttered, even us kids understood why everyone was frozen solid. The envelope Maria held was one of the Ushiyamaya family head's custom-made envelopes used for private use. In other words, it can only mean one thing. The envelope contained a message from Kinzo.
どうしてそんな封筒がここにあるんだね。
こいつは面白いもんが飛び出してくるぜ。
ちょいとわしに見せてみ。
ダメ！マリアが読むの。マリアがみんなに読んで聞かせなさいって言われたの。
Uncle Hideyoshi tried to snatch the envelope out of Maria's hands, but she protected it through hugging and didn't let it go.
秀吉兄さん、子供相手に力ずくなんていけませんよ。マリアちゃん、その封筒はどうしたの？
傘を を貸してくれた時にベアトリーチェにもらった。ご飯が終わったらマリアがみんなに読んで聞かせろって言われた。マリアは魔女のメッセンジャーなの。
メッセンジャーこの島の魔女様は随分と洒落てるじゃねえかよ。
Battler tried to joke about it, but no one laughed.
それで中には何て書いてあるのかしら、マリアちゃん。
読む。
Maria casually opened the envelope. It was sealed only with wax, so she just had to remove the sealing wax to open it. That sealing wax fell onto the desk. Hideyoshi hastily picked it up and stared fixedly at it. He set it in the center of the table where Natsui, Kiri, and Nanjo stared at it. Imprisoned in the seal of wax was the one-winged eagle, which was Ushio family crest, and also Kinzo's personal crest.
これは当主様の紋章？
私は金蔵さんに手紙をもらったことがあるからわかる。これは間違いなく金蔵さんの風浪だ。
でもこのお屋敷にはそれと同じ紋章がいくつもあるのでは？例えば風浪用のハンコのようなものがあれば金蔵さんでなくても風浪はできるのでは？
いや、金蔵さんは風浪には必ず自分が指にしている後ろ宮家当主の証の指輪で刻印をする。
But he just tossed that out of the window. So this letter must have been written after he tossed it out of the window, which means Beatrice showed up after then.
この形や複雑な意匠は間違いなく金蔵さんの風浪だ。
そうとは限らんよ。親族であれば一度くらいは親父の手紙を受け取ったことはあるはずだ。その風浪をもとに偽の紋章を作り、親父殿を語って刻印した可能性が否めない。
兄貴に同感だ。風浪に刻印されている紋章がどれだけ親父のものに酷似していたとしても、だからその封筒が親父のものであるという証拠にはならない。
私も全く同じよ。風浪の刻印だけでお父様の手紙だなんて決めつけることには同意できないわ。南條先生、曖昧な言葉は慎んでいただけるかしら。
これは失礼。出過ぎた口でしたな。
One after the other, all the siblings from Kraus on downwards rejected Nanjo's statement, saying that the envelope Maria held was not necessarily from Kinzo. They were afraid. They feared from the bottom of their hearts that Kinzo's intentions were written in here, and that it might be some announcement that regarding the inheritance that would be directly unfavorable to them.
マリア、その封筒は傘を貸してくれた人がくれたのね。じゃわからないでしょ。そうなの？
つまり魔女ベアトリーチェが傘と一緒にマリアちゃんにその封筒を。
Maria nodded forcefully.
主人に私も同感です。得体の知れない何者かが手渡した怪文書です。読むにも値しません。
せめて読むくらいいいじゃねえかよ。な。
Battler said it to Jessica in a small voice, trying to act tough, but Natsui heard them clearly and glared at him with threatening eyes.
それでマリアはベアトリーチェに食事が終わったら読めって言われたんだな。
いいじゃないの皆さん。これはおじい様の封筒ではなく、ベアトリーチェの封筒。誰が書いたのかはともかく、中身を聞いてからの判断でもいいんじゃないかしら。
そうやな。お父さんが書いたとは限らんが、中身が気になるんは事実や。マリアちゃん、さっきは無理やり取ろうとしてすまんかった。謝るからみんなの前でそれ読み上げてくれんか。
マリア、読みなさい。
As all the relatives stared fiercely at Maria, she spread the letter open with a rustle.
本当に親父の手紙だと思うか？ありえんね。親父殿が私たちに何かを発表するときは、直接でなければいつだって源氏を通してじゃないか。このようなこじゃれた方法でするとは思えんね。
そうよ。マリアをメッセンジャーに？それこそお父様の趣味じゃないわよ。ローザ、これはマリアちゃんが私たちを脅かそうという何かの隠し芸なんでしょ？
マリアはそんな気の利いたことができる子じゃないわ。
The words that came out of Maria's mouth, but for some reason her voice seemed different than usual. Everyone went suddenly silent.
六軒島へようこそ、後ろ宮家の皆様方。私は金蔵様にお仕えしております当家顧問錬金術師のベアトリーチェと申します。
そんなアホな。
黙って。
長年にわたりご契約に従いお仕えしてまいりましたが、本日金蔵様よりその契約の終了を宣告されました。よって本日をもちまして当家顧問錬金術師のお役目を終了させていただきますことをどうかご了承くださいませ。
くだらん。ざれ言だ。
聞くに耐えません。
さてここで皆様に契約の一部をご説明しなければなりません。私ベアトリーチェは金蔵様にある条件とともに莫大な黄金の貸与をいたしました。その条件とは、契約終了時に黄金のすべてを返還すること。そして利息として後ろ宮家のすべてを頂戴できるというものです。
むちゃくちゃや。
初めっからむちゃくちゃだぜ。
要するにあれだろ？よくある悪魔の契約みたいなやつなんだろ。ほんで契約がおしまいってことになるから利子を回収に来たってわけだ。いいんや？長年の退職金のつもりかな。ちゃっかりした魔女だぜ。
バトラ君、今は茶化さない方がいい。
Actually, I'd say it is the time to joke around. Judging by the music. Battler made a face as to ask, if I can't make fun of this, what can I make fun of? Some of the adult faces were pale, while others looked dazed.
これだけをお聞きならば、皆様は金蔵様のことをなんと無慈悲なのかとお嘆きにもなられるでしょう。しかし金蔵様は皆様に富と名誉を残す機会を設けるため特別な条項を追加されました。その条項が満たされた時に限り、私は黄金と利子を回収する権利を永遠に失います。
特別な条項？
それは何よ？
特別条項。契約終了時にベアトリーチェは黄金と利子を回収する権利を持つ。ただし隠された契約の黄金を暴いた者が現れた時、ベアトリーチェはこの権利を全て永遠に放棄しなければならない。利子の回収はこれより行いますが、もし皆様のうちの誰か一人でも特別条項を満たせたなら、すでに回収した分も含めて全てお返しいたします。なお、
改修の手始めとしてすでに後宮本家の家督を受け継いだことを示す後宮家当主の指輪をお預かりさせていただきました。封印のろうそくにてそれをどうかご確認くださいませ。
これがそうだというのか。親父が指輪を手放すなどありえん。
Ralph stared at the ceiling wax as though trying to burn a hole through it, even when Rudolph was doing the same over his shoulder.
確かにチェスの時、金蔵さんの指に何か足りんような違和感は感じ取りました。
南條先生、おぼろげな記憶でいい加減なことを言わないように。
その心眼をここでは測れないわ。本当に指輪をおじい様は誰かに手渡したのか、この手紙が本当の話かどうかはおじい様に直接確認すればいいだけの話じゃない。
そうね。桐江さんの言う通りだわ。
果たして金蔵さんがそれを答えてくれますかな。あの人のお考えは時に人の世の常識では測りかねますからな。
どのみちざれ言の域を伝ね。第一、黄金幻想自体が親父殿のまやかしだ。ありもしない黄金の話を始めるのはお前たちだけで十分だ。
でも魔女様はおっしゃってるわよ。黄金を見つけた者に家督と全ての財産を引き渡すってね。つまりベアトリーチェ様はお父様の顧問弁護士もしくは金庫番でもあられるってことじゃないのかしら。このような怪しげな文章を子供に託すような怪人物を信用することなどできません。
兄貴、腹を割ってもらうぜ。兄貴の知らない人物が親父の財産管理をしてるようなことはあり得るのか。
いや、それはない。私は当主代行として親父殿の全ての財産を把握している。私に知られずにそれらを自由にできる人間はいないはずだ。
じゃあつまりクラウス兄さんの把握していない財産ってことじゃないの？
バカな、そんなものあるわけがない。
あるわよ。兄さんが把握していないお父様の資産。そんなものあるわけがありません。
いや、あるで。それがお父さんの、いやベアトリーチェの隠し黄金や。
話を整頓しよう。つまり親父には兄貴も知らない腹心がいた。そしてそいつはずっと黄金の番と運用を任されてきたわけだ。あるいは悪魔の契約まがいのルールで融資した神塚の大富豪か。
その腹心のベアトリーチェさんは自分の黄金を融資する相手として息子兄弟の誰がふさわしいか試したいということなのかしら。
Kiri's question was one that all the siblings wanted answered. Upon reflection, they realized that Kinzo's strange epitaph had hung in the hallway beneath the witch's portrait for some time. And while it had long been whispered that whoever solved the puzzle would receive everything, no one had ever clearly stated it. It's just something that everyone hoped might have been true. And right here, right now, the thing they hoped for had clearly been stated in Beatrice's letter. It clearly stated that everything in the Ushiromaya family would be given to the one who found the gold.
黄金の隠し場所については、すでに金蔵様が私の肖像画の下に碑文にて公示されております。条件は、碑文を読むことができるものすべてに公平に。黄金を暴けたなら、私はすべてをお返しするでしょう。それではどうか今宵を、金蔵様との知恵比べにて存分にお楽しみくださいませ。今宵が知的かつ優雅な夜になるよう心よりお祈りいたしております。
Elegant maybe, but intellectual.
黄金の
No.
ベアトリーチェ。
お父さん、聞こえているはずです。返事をしてください。
My daughter Kinzo's study was being violently, harshly beaten against over and over like a percussion instrument. The yells coming from the other side belonged to Kraus, Rudolph, and sometimes Eva. It was the siblings who were trying to intrude upon Kinzo's study to question him about the truth behind that mysterious letter. Kinzo was eating. An elegant tablecloth was set upon the desk, and a fabulous dinner that had been adorned on the table in the dining hall was reproduced here. Kinzo continued his meal in silence. Shannon, taking away the empty plate, looked uncomfortably between the door or being pounded on in Kinzo's face.
皆さんがお呼びですが、いかがいたしますか？
捨ておけ。神と我が晩餐は沈黙を尊ぶ。
黙らせますか。
必要ない。我が耳には届いておらぬ。
Kinzo enjoyed his food, apparently indifferent. Genji quietly lowered his head and took a single step back, as did Kanon, who stood in reserve like a shadow behind him to the side of Genji, opened his mouth.
マリア様がベアトリーチェ様より手紙を受け取られたとのことで、その真偽を確かめたいのでしょう。
あやつめ、早速始めおったか。さあ、ベアトリーチェ、かけるコインに不足はあるまい。存分に今宵を楽しもうではないか。負ける気はないぞ。お前の微笑みは永遠に私のものだ。もう一度見られるなら、富も名誉も我が命すらも惜しくはない。さて、ルーレットは回り始めた。ボールはどのポケットに落ちるのか。ノワールか、ルージュか、それとも親の総取りか。さあ始めるがいい、ベアトリーチェ。私が再びお前に奇跡の力というものを見せてやる。